So, good morning. We'll give folks just another couple minutes to get on.
Morning, Andrea.
Good morning. All right, we have folks on board and anybody else can join us as they come. So, welcome everyone to the Oregon Conservation Partnership webinar here in November. Our topic this time is the Private Forest Accord grants, and we're here to welcome Andy Spirka of ODFW to give us some more information on the grant. So, welcome, Andy, and I'm going to turn this over to you.
All right. Good morning, Andrea. Thanks for the time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get right into our presentation. Andrea, can you see what's on screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Let me get my split screen set up here for just a quick second. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. As Andrea said, my name's Andy Spurka. I'm the Private Forest Accord Grant Coordinator here at the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. Thank you for the opportunity today to come and present about the Private Forest Accord Grant Program, which is currently accepting applications as of last Friday, and we will be accepting applications through January 9th of 2026 at midnight. The goal of this program aims to provide some critical funding throughout the state to projects that provide conservation benefit to a short list of aquatic-based species and their habitat. Today, I'll delve briefly into the program's history, its core priorities, eligibility criteria, and some preliminary updates for this year's solicitation, with the hope that my presentation sparks some new project ideas and, of course, brings some awareness to this somewhat new funding opportunity. This is our third year offering this funding. Following my brief presentation here, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone online may have, or even discuss some project ideas, kind of just be an open book for you guys. So let's jump right into the background very quickly. In 2021, conservationists and the timber industry reached a landmark compromise known as the Private Forest Accord. This agreement marked a new era of collaboration in Oregon's forest management with the shared goal of protecting aquatic resources while ensuring long-term stability and regulatory certainty for forest operations. In short, the Accord introduced stronger stream protections and set the stage for an incidental take permit, also called an ITP, providing clear guidance for permitted forest practices. As part of this process, the Oregon Department of Forestry is now pursuing that incidental take permit through the federal permitting system, which requires the development of a Habitat Conservation Plan, or HCP. To support this effort, the Private Forest Accord Grant Program was created to fund projects that provide measurable conservation benefits or uplift for species covered under the PFA Habitat Conservation Plan. The species covered under the Private Forest Accord Habitat Conservation Plan are shown here. These are the focal species for the PFA grant program and represent key fish and wildlife populations that depend on Oregon's aquatic systems. The central goal of this program is to generate measurable conservation benefits for these species and their habitats across the state of Oregon. While projects do not have to occur within forested landscapes or in timberland, they must clearly demonstrate a direct benefit to at least one or more of the listed species here to qualify for funding. This list is broad and emphasizes aquatic-based restoration and protection efforts. When developing proposals, we encourage applicants to align their projects with local or regional recovery priorities that also advance broader state and federal recovery objectives. Proposals that demonstrate strong connections to established recovery plans, address limiting factors, or leverage partnerships to support multiple species or watershed scale outcomes tend to be the most competitive in this program. The Private Forest Accord Grant Program is supported by a strong partnership with the Private Forest Accord Grants Advisory Committee, which works closely with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to ensure the program delivers on its original intent and remains transparent, effective, and balanced. The advisory committee plays several key roles. It advises the department on the ongoing development and improvement of the grant program, conducts rigorous evaluations to ensure that the most impactful projects are recommended for funding, and provides formal recommendations to the department and the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Commission for final project approval. The committee brings together a range of perspectives to guide decision making. It includes 7 voting members representing conservation, the timber industry, and 1 member from the Oregon Conservation and Recreation Fund, as well as 5 non-voting members from key state and federal agencies who offer technical and policy expertise in an advisory capacity. This process is designed to be open and transparent. The public is encouraged to learn more about the committee, review materials, and participate in our monthly meetings that we hold publicly. You can find more info at pfagrants.com. Public engagement and feedback help ensure the program continues to evolve in a way that benefits both Oregon's landscapes and its communities. So we encourage public comment at every meeting and public involvement. The Private Forest Accord Grant Program focuses on proactive and measurable actions that provide benefit for the Private Forest Accord Habitat Conservation Plan covered species and improve habitat conditions across Oregon. While the program supports direct restoration efforts such as adding in-stream structures or reconnecting floodplains, it also emphasizes long-term resilience through habitat preservation and threat reduction. To guide applicants, the program has established clear priorities that reflect the vision of restoring and sustaining healthy ecosystems. These priorities include restoring degraded habitat to natural resilient conditions, preserving land, water and habitat resources, enhancing habitat quality, reducing or eliminating threats to the covered species, and creating new habitat. All project proposals should work to demonstrate a clear connection to one or more of these priorities to be considered eligible for funding. Proposals that align with multiple priorities or that deliver lasting benefits to covered species and their habitats are especially encouraged. The PFA grant program supports a wide range of restoration-based projects, from planning and implementation to in-stream water transactions, with acquisition funding anticipated in the next year's open solicitation. Applicants can combine project types when feasible to achieve meaningful on-the-ground results that advance habitat restoration and species recovery. The program is designed for flexibility and to meet grantees where they want to be met. There are no minimum or maximum funding limits. Matching funds are not required, but they are encouraged when you apply. Most organizations and businesses in the state of Oregon are eligible to apply for funding, while individual landowners must partner with one of the eligible entities. Collaborative projects that bring together multiple partners tend to have a greater impact and visibility in this program. Applicants are encouraged to think creatively about where and how they can deliver the most conservation benefits. While many projects occur in forested watersheds, proposals that benefit covered species and other habitat types, including agricultural or mixed use areas, are also eligible for funding. What matters most is demonstrating measurable benefits to one or more of the HCP covered species. The program seeks projects that address multiple conservation needs and leave a lasting legacy. Strong proposals offer innovative solutions that not only improve habitat and species outcomes, but also contribute to the long-term resilience of Oregon's ecosystem. The PFA grant program review process follows a structured multi-tiered review process involving local, state, and federal partners. The goal is straightforward: to identify and fund the most effective projects that deliver measurable benefits for species covered under the Habitat Conservation Plan. Each application begins with an initial eligibility screening by ODF&W, followed by a technical review team led by regional PFA stream biologists. The first phase focuses on feasibility, scientific merit, and alignment with regional and program priorities to ensure every project fits within the broader conservation framework of the Private Forest Accord. Next, proposals advance to the PFA Grants Advisory Committee, which evaluates and ranks projects based on established criteria such as applicant capacity, cost effectiveness, partnerships, and technical soundness. The committee's diverse expertise ensures balanced recommendations that reflect both ecological value and practical implementation potential. In the final stage of review, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife presents these recommendations to the Fish and Wildlife Commission for final review and approval of funding of projects. Approved projects move quickly towards contracting and funding with the intent to begin implementation by the following spring when you apply. I want to showcase a few projects within our grant program, particularly since this is only our third year offering this solicitation. I know it can be difficult to apply for a new program, so hopefully this helps to paint a picture. A project in Umatilla County tackles critical fish habitat restoration within a 5-mile stretch of the North Fork Walla Walla River by restoring natural features like pools, meanders, and woody debris. A project in the Upper Klamath Basin will focus on the conservation of the Klamath bull trout. This project addresses competition for resources by eradicating non-native fish species, specifically brook trout. The project will create a bull trout reintroduction plan, feasibility studies for propagation and translocation methods, and post-reintroduction effectiveness monitoring. The Cleto Tidegate project aims to maximize fish passage for coho salmon and other salmonoid species by facilitating access to a critically important 9,800-acre basin encompassing 490 acres of tidal wetlands and 11 miles of coho spawning streams. The project will address multiple challenges by removing channel obstructions, improving water quality, and restoring a natural tidal regime and establishing a riparian buffer along lower Beaver Slope. The Beaver Creek Valley Restoration Design Project focuses on long-term planning for the restoration of stream and floodplain health across 37 acres within the Beaver Creek Valley by developing final designs that address key limiting factors. These projects represent just a snapshot of the impactful efforts supported by our grant program across the state. You can learn more about projects we've previously funded at pfagrants.com, where we'll have the project abstract, a few more details, funding. We also have an interactive map to see where projects are funded. I want to now briefly touch on the updates this year to the PFA grant program and the current solicitation. The first major improvement is an attempt at faster funding timelines. Due to a revision in our administrative rules this past summer, applicants can now begin projects as early as the spring following application submission. That's less than 6 months after applying. This is a major achievement for this grant program. This shift allows grantees to plan around in-water work windows and begin implementing the very next field season. So, for example, applications for projects are due by January 9th of 2026. And we anticipate start dates to be in April of 2026. So that's just 3 months after you submit your application. Next, we have simplified reporting requirements in this program to lessen administrative burden for grantees while trying to still maintain transparency and accountability in the use of public funds. So what I mean by this is only one progress report per year is required, replacing quarterly reporting requirements. Mid-project updates are no longer needed, and only a single final project closeout report will be required. We are still requiring a performance report with every request for reimbursement if you choose to do that quarterly, but you can skip that and just do once a year reporting if you would like. We have tried to streamline the application by reducing redundancies and combining questions. We can do better, so please note what is redundant as you review your applications this year. We do send out feedback surveys. That's how we make a lot of these changes. That's where these changes on the screen was driven by. So please, as you submit your application, fill out that feedback survey and let us know how we can do better in the future to better serve your needs. A significant new addition this year is the inclusion of water transaction projects as an eligible project type. This expansion supports in-stream flow restoration through full and split season in-stream leases, permanent or time-limited transfers, forbearance agreements, minimum flow agreements, and other water use partnerships. This creates major new opportunities for applicants working on water conservation and flow restoration. We've also now will require a landowner acknowledgement form with each application that takes place on land not owned by the applicant. We understand that obtaining a landowner acknowledgement form can be difficult during the application phase. So while it's not required to be submitted with the application, it is encouraged, but it is required that we receive a landowner acknowledgement form before we can execute an agreement with a grantee that is doing work not on their own property. This helps to ensure that all parties involved on the project are aware of the project and all the conditions that come with it. It is not a legally binding document. ODFW is not a part of that landowner acknowledgement form, but a template has been provided in the solicitation for the grantee for our applicants to use. And lastly, while this isn't a change, we've kept the broad indirect rates in this program that we implemented last year with the goal that these broad indirect rates support the programs that our grantees implement on behalf of this effort and projects. So with that, like I said, it's a pretty quick presentation just to kind of paint the picture of what this grant program looks like, how we've kind of evolved throughout the last few years, thanks to the feedback from many of you across the state who applied for this funding. We are offering up to $10 million in this current solicitation. Applications are due by January 9th, 2026 at midnight. We have a lot of information at pfagrants.com along with updated grant guidelines. If you have any project questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them now, but we also have our regional stream bio who leads our regional review teams. That map of contact can be found at pfagrants.com, and they're one of your best friends when you come to apply for this program because they do advocate on behalf of every single project submitted in their region. You can reach out to me and I can connect you with those stream bios. Or we're always happy to have pre-application planning meetings and let you know if a project's applicable, if it fits the program priorities. Last thing we want to do is waste your guys' time with an application that might not fit the bill here. So don't hesitate to reach out. With that, Andrea, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm not sure if we're able to do that or not. I'm going to stop sharing screen here.
Uh, we should be able to. I think we would have to allow folks to talk, or you can put your questions either in the Q&A or in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, I can enable talking if you want to ask questions that way. I had a quick clarifying question. When
Mm-hmm.
you talk about habitat preservation, what do you
Yeah.
mean by preservation?
I appreciate it. That's a good question. So this grant program is implemented through our legislature. And one of the intent of that legislature was to allow the grant program to preserve land through our funding. So what that looks like and what it will look like next year is conservation easements is what we anticipate that to look like. So while we weren't able to implement that this year because we ended up getting in-water transactions into the program this year, next year, we expect conservation easements to be that avenue for preservation. So they will be eligible for funding next year when we launch our solicitation. So that's what we mean by land preservation for the most part.
Okay. So I was wondering whether easements were going to be allowed, but not this year. That's
Yeah, not this year. We are working with our committee to define that guidance. So there is, the caveat being that it might change a little bit from what I'm saying today, but we're working with our committee. We do post all that stuff online. We'll be starting those discussions again in spring of next year. So anyone that has an interest in what preservation may look like for this grant funding, I'd recommend you get involved and start attending our meetings in spring of next year to stay informed of what that's going to look like.
okay. While we're waiting for folks to think about their questions or what they want to bring up, I did have another question to say. So what types of organizations have been applying or have been awarded grants?
So the little back, give you a little twofold answer there. So almost any organization in the state can apply. So that's private, public organizations, for-profit, nonprofits, uh, municipalities, local, state, and federal governments can apply. Who we usually see are watershed councils and conservation, soil and conservation districts. That's a lot of the work that we see get done in the state through this program. We do see a lot of municipalities too, I would say, as a runner up there. We don't have landowners aren't allowed to apply on their own. We encourage them to partner with soil conservation districts or watershed councils to kind of get the work done. Just because we have a lot of requirements in this program, and I know it can be somewhat overwhelming to follow all of them. But yeah, our bread and butter is kind of everyone on this call, your guys' constituents, and that's who we really see implement the priorities on behalf of this program.
We seem to have a very quiet group on here today.
You know,
You
and
sure
that's good
somebody
to
has any questions?
know. Maybe we answered everything. We are about 3 years into the program,
Yeah.
so it could be pretty straightforward on what we're funding at this point, hopefully.
Okay.
The biggest thing I would say to everyone is just stay involved in this program as we continue to develop. Not many times do you get to see a grant program grow legs and be a part of that time as it starts to grow legs and walk. So please stay involved, attend our meetings. We encourage public comment.
So we do have a question. Dean, go ahead.
Yeah, we got within our district here in Wasco County, we've got several projects that we'd like to work on, and they might be in different geographical region or different geographical areas within our county. Are we able to apply for multiple grants within our district to cover those projects, or are we limited to one grant per district?
Good
Or
question.
would it be more beneficial to combine all those into one grant and try shooting, go about it that way?
That's a good question. And I appreciate the follow up there because I was gonna bring that into my answer. First answer is yes, you can apply as many times as you would like to this grant program within 1 year. And if you've already have a grant awarded from previous years, you can still keep applying for funding. Secondly, it's we're working to streamline this application every year. It's a big application. So I would understand you may not want to do multiple. And if you don't want to do multiple applications, yes, definitely doing a regional submission is a good idea. I was just talking to one of your colleagues just yesterday about that, where maybe there's a few things on a few different projects that hit our priorities in this program, and you want to apply for that. That would be eligible. The goal of this program and that habitat conservation plan covered species list is providing uplift across the entire state. We are not mitigation. So you don't have to say this watershed had this take of this species, we're going to mitigate for it. No, we look at each of your projects as an entire uplift for that species across the entire state. So if you're doing 4 different areas in a region, that counts as uplift. And I would say that'd be a pretty strong proposal, especially since you're bringing in multiple partners and stakeholders.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? As I noted in the chat that we will be putting the recording up on the Oregon Conservation Partnership website once I get it.
I will say before I forget, this grant program has been awarded, has been evergreen for funding. So that means is we are perpetually funded through legislature going forward, which is a great thing. It's a big win for this program. So we do expect at least $10 million a year to be deposited into this program going forward. So if you don't have an application ready this year, we plan to be around for the years to come, plenty of years to come. So we're really excited for that and to be able to work with all of you to deliver the benefits we want in the state. So that's a big one. That just happened in this last legislative session.
Great. Great. Oh, we do have another. So Brooke, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is regards to like match and leverage. So, although match isn't required, is it okay to have like other ODF and W funds as leverage for the PFA application?
Short answer is yes. So you will get 1 point in our scoring rubric when you do provide match. So there is some competitiveness to providing match. Providing leverage with our ODFW staff or other ODFW funding is perfectly allowable. We have plenty of projects that do that. The biggest thing you'll need is just a support letter from, if it's ODFW staff time, get it from their office. If not, we'll get it during the award period if you get awarded. But yeah, there's not a problem there. We see it quite often. A lot of our regional offices have really great project ideas. They work with all of you guys. So it's pretty common to see that happen. And we do expect it.
Great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments, ideas? Just out of curiosity, where have most of the projects been so far? Have they really been all around the state or?
Actually, they have been pretty well distributed. We see a lot, which is kind of run of the mill for a lot of our programs in the state on the Cascades to the west. But we are seeing more and more in the east. So we have some really good ones in the northeast. Walla Walla one I talked about earlier. That they've seen some success. We funded a few rounds actually of their efforts upon River Mile restoration. We have some more projects in the southern portion of the state. I know we'd like to see some more in just the primary eastern portion of the state, Burns area, Ochoco area would be really good to see some more efforts. I know it gets hard because we are an aquatic-based grant program. So with that, you need to find some
Water.
fish-bearing streams or water to begin with. But we do allow in water transactions now. So, that might open up the door to some different agricultural practices across the state when it comes to in water leasing. But yeah, I would say we're starting to get more into Eastern Oregon. We could see some more investment, though. We'd appreciate that.
Great.
We don't prioritize any funding in the sense, or bin any funding, I guess. Let me correct myself, in the sense of implementation versus planning versus in-stream transactions. All project types do compete against one another, and all project locations do compete against one another. So even though we divide the state into like 5 review regions, we do not bin funding into those regions. Again, when someone applies for funding, we're looking at the benefit to the covered species. So that means is a project that's requesting 50,000 may have a bigger benefit than a project that's requesting a few $100,000, depending on the merit of that project and the benefit to this target species. So that's really what we're looking at: is what is the conservation uplift at the end of the day? How is this money being delivered to that on the ground?
What have been like the range of size of projects that you've been seeing?
Oh, that's a good question. So we recommend usually at least 50,000 to request. Just a recommendation because again, we want to see the money get out the door. We really turn this funding around immediately when we get it awarded from legislature. On average, last time I recall, I think our average project size was around $300,000 to $500,000. So it's a pretty big request that we get, and I think it's closer to the 500,000 mark.
Mhm.
We're getting more popular every year. It is a competitive program. So I recommend as you consider projects, especially larger ones, to connect with your stream bio and just get on their radar why the scale is large. The committee does look at scalability of these projects. Um, I know it's easy to ask, just make sure your projects are scalable, but just keep that in mind as you apply and as you build your project. The committee sometimes does look at a few projects when they get to the bottom of that funding line, and they go, "Well, we have 4 or 5 really great projects," and then we will work with applicants at that point to be like, "Hey, well, what can we do to partially fund your project?"
Great. That's actually good to let people know because some other agencies don't do that. They hit
Mm.
their funding line and they hit their funding line. Um, Great. Well, I'm not seeing any other hands. Once again, you can reach out to Andy in order to pfagrants.com.
There you go.
Okay. So check it out, get your applications in, and we look forward to seeing some great work on the ground.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for the time. Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate it a lot. We're
Sure.
looking talking soon.
Thanks. All right. Bye.